going to start a new series, and this is based on the book Common Sense Renewed by Robert Christian, not his name, obviously. And this is the dude who's responsible for the Georgia Guidestones. This is about the author. Robert Christian is a pseudonym of a private American citizen who is concerned about growing evidence of a decline in the political and economic strengths of our republic. He has chosen to remain anonymous in order to avoid useless controversy and to better focus attention on his thoughts rather than on himself. He is the author and sponsor of the Georgia Guidestones Monument. Inscriptions on these stones appeal to the rational nature of all people, of all political persuasions, and of all religious affiliations, or of none. They list certain guides for humanity for dealing with our growing world problems. In these essays, he extends his subject further and considers specific facets of American and world difficulties, suggesting avenues which might be explored in seeking their solution. You know, love this guy. Yeah, and Brian from Washington State sent this to me, and I appreciate it because he kind of like sent it in the vein of, you know, you might want to see what the bad guys are thinking. Watch how they spin some of the more atrocious outcomes for you and me. Here's the preface by Robert Christian. I wonder what else RC might stand for. At harvest time, primitive farmers separate their grain by beating the stalks with flails on a threshing floor. They remove the loose straw, leaving a residue of grain, chaff, and dust. This mixture is purified by winnowing, tossing it into the air to permit the empty husks and useless debris to be carried away on the wind. The grain kernels fall back where they can be recovered and put to use by the community. Also, I'm going to tell you right now, too, if you want to listen to that short story by Asimov, The Winnowing, it's up on the site. It's hidden, but all you got to do is go into, Vyzygoth.com/audio/winnowing.mp3, and you can listen to the short story, The Winnowing. Having reached the harvest time of my own life, I feel a duty to share with you a few thoughts gained in my brief existence as a member of the human family. All right. Like primitive farmers, I place these ideas on the threshing floor of the public forum, where that which is useless or in error, the straw if you will, can be separated by the flails of critical discussion. I am hopeful that when the residual chaff has been winnowed away, there will remain a few kernels which can be added to the store of human wisdom in a manner that will contribute to the general welfare. And I understand the metaphor he uses here, but think of yourself also as another metaphor that is somewhat cloaked in this. The winnowing of the straw, would that be you and me? I have no pretensions to authority. I am a plain citizen. I doubt that. Without scholarly stature or political experience, I'm doubting that too. I present herein certain views dealing with a variety of subjects. Some of these thoughts, particularly those which relate to my private concepts of the cosmos and of our role within it, may offend certain of my readers because of seeming conflicts with their own cherished beliefs and traditions. It is not my intent to stir up controversy. Yeah. Each of us is entitled to private views gained through personal experience. I do not challenge the opinion of anyone in these matters. I simply present my thoughts for those who seek to review a variety of opinions when dealing with controversial matters. Others may ignore them. I have attempted to seek truth, beginning from a starting point in space and time, and cultural immersion, which was determined for me by the accidents of human history. Each life is unique. We follow individual pathways to the grave. We cannot control many of the elements which determine our destinies and simply do the best we can with the opportunities which come our way. I seek that degree of toleration and understanding which you would grant a family member whose philosophical views seem at first glance to be outlandish or out of step with the beliefs of others. If you cannot agree with my views, I ask only that you will base your contrary opinions on solid evidence and common sense, and that you will not permit your judgment to be overwhelmed by unreasoning faith in a manner that ignores honest evidence. Collective human intelligence is capable of discovering acceptable solutions for the problems which confront us. We must work together to direct political and moral influences through channels of wisdom, not channels of brute force or ambition. Using common sense as our guide, we must unite with the entire human family in establishing a limited, and that's italic, world government capable of settling international disputes through a system of law. We must establish as a parallel objective the building of an enduring balance between human activities and the world of nature. These will be first steps in creating an enduring age of reason, and that is the preface. And now we move on to Chapter 1, Common Sense Renewed. Nice spin on this. Over 200 years ago, a perceptive Englishman, Tom Paine, arrived in America in the early stages of our struggle for independence. He came with the encouragement of Benjamin Franklin, who shared with him a desire for peaceful resolution of the frictions which had developed between the colonies and Great Britain. Paine became incensed by the autocratic aspects of British rule. He summarized his beliefs in a tract entitled Common Sense, which brought the issues into focus for the general public. He appealed to reason as the proper tool for resolving our problems peacefully. Unfortunately, human intransigence made war inevitable. Today, the world is confronted by increasing portents of nuclear war. It is an essential, more than ever before, that we explore every means for rational, nonviolent resolution of worldly frictions. Once again, we must look to common sense to find new pathways to peace. These essays are addressed to open-minded citizens of all national, political, and religious persuasions who are willing to review our problems in the light of collective reason. Let us end once and for all the ultimate abomination, war. Let us stamp out politically motivated terrorism and assassination. Now, that worked. I speak as a private citizen of the United States, professing neither great wisdom nor prophetic power. Then why we listen to you. I do believe that human problems can be solved through nonviolent means. The difficulties which hamper our search for peace are rooted in our natures. My personal religious beliefs are based perfectly on those of Christ, as adapted to my understanding of reality. Oh, that's going to be rich. I can easily live in peace with others who hold quite different views, for I recognize the uncertainty of all human knowledge and the disparity of opinion which often marks appraisals by different individuals who view a common subject from widely separated viewpoints. Even our dogmatic beliefs may prove to be an error when viewed against a background of new understanding. History is replete with human suffering, which has resulted from an inflexibility of belief, especially in the areas of religion and politics. For more than 60 years, I have benefited from the American political system, which was built through the labors and suffering of our forebears. Some of my ancestors participated in the major wars which forged and preserved our liberties. They did not. They were represented in the armies of George Washington and of both the North and the South in the period of our Civil War. I've voiced my views from a sense of obligation to them and to all who have helped to make our nation a stronghold for freedom and a home for democratic principles. Like all human beings, I entered this existence without my volition or consent. I share the gift of life with you and with myriads of other forms. We humans open our eyes and behold the universe with mysterious and vast dimensions which range beyond our understanding. Questions about our role or purpose find only tentative and uncertain answers. Most of us are content to accept on faith the teachings of religious leaders that we are significant agents of a supreme being. We sense an obligation to live in accord with natural laws we discern in the world around us. We observe within our nature certain talents and a small degree of intelligence. We accept an implied obligation to pursue goodness and truth. Instincts acquired in more than 2 billion years of evolutionary struggle for survival live on within our physical natures. They impel us to continue and to further improve our own species. Inborn curiosity and dynamism stimulate us to explore our world, seeking out challenges and answers. Imagination and altruism inspire us to envision a future in which we will govern our animal nature and assume a guiding role over all living things in accordance with our best spiritual and intellectual capacities. What was that all about? We live in a time of great peril. Humanity and the proud achievements of its infancy on earth are in grave danger. Our knowledge has outstripped wisdom. We have controlled disease, but we have not regulated our numbers. We have advanced our understanding in the natural sciences, but not have adequately controlled our baser animal instincts. We have begun to accept the rule of law, but have limited its application, permitting it to regulate the affairs of individuals and of small political divisions, while we neglect to use it in controlling major aggression. We have outlawed the use of murder and violence in resolving individual disputes, but have failed to develop procedures to peacefully settle conflicts between nations. Just going back to this rule of law, why do I hate that phrase? There's something not right about the rule of law. The rule of law. What are you talking about? You know? Meanwhile, we have made the world an atomic tinderbox. We cannot permit the present condition to continue. We must change our traditions. Devising effective political mechanisms to control the conduct of nations is not an impossible task. It should be viewed as a scientific and social challenge which demands the immediate attention of the wisest human heads in all the family of nations. The world is devoting intense effort and lavish funding to developing even more sophisticated weapons in an arms race, which at the moment shows little prospect of ending in peace. We in the Soviet Union are directing vast resources and intense intellectual effort to the exploration of space. This is not intrinsically wrong, but it diverts attention from much more pressing problems. We must all rearrange our priorities to reflect a logical appraisal of the more urgent political dilemmas which confront us. And I'm sorry, but I mean, by the way, do we decide that? You and me? They take it out of our paychecks. They don't ask us what we want to do with it. Or if they do, they don't listen. And all of a sudden, what is this, our problem? I mean, go talk to the bankers, man, and the industrialists and the politicians. Don't lay this on us. But you know what? Who do they want to come and kill and depopulate? You and me. Where's Dennis Leary when you need him? Nowhere do we observe proper concern for devising political arrangements that will assure an international peace and the free flow of commerce and knowledge while preserving for each nation reasonable autonomy within its borders. Right? Surely this is not an insurmountable task for our collective intelligence. There must be alternatives to war which will be acceptable to and welcomed by the mass of humanity. We must now make an organized worldwide effort to find them and to apply them to the affairs of mankind. This is the greatest challenge facing us in the atomic era. They call it terrorism, dude. The Soviet Union and the United States are both powerful nations. Differences in political philosophy have divided the family of nations into two large camps, and these have gathered around two major powers, sharing to some degree the views which make those powers rivals. The rivalry is rooted in a momentum of historical behavior patterns which date back to another, far different era. But those patterns, passively accepted, become chains which prevent rational behavior from meeting the challenges of today. The leaders of our two countries can cast off those restraints and direct our affairs to establish new political mechanisms capable of logically resolving the frictions which presently characterize our mutual relationships. It is unthinkable that America and the Soviet Union could unite as political partners. He said, is it? I'm sorry, pose it as a question. Can we not assume the role of wiser and stronger elders in guiding the family of man through the present dangers into a future ruled by human reason? Is not this prospect an appealing alternative to nuclear war? Achieving that partnership is vastly more important than exploring the moon. It will be immeasurably more productive of good for humanity than all the futile, frantic preparations for war which now distract us. Human intelligence is capable of devising solutions to all of our problems: war, population control, justice under law, there we go again, and the progressive improvement and perfection of our species as the shepherd of life on earth. What the hell did that mean? What is this guy talking about? I recognize the differences which separate my understanding of reality from that of religionists who interpret the Bible and other ancient documents in a literal fashion. Well, why don't you just tell us how we should? Tongue, baby. If we had lived identical lives and reviewed the same evidence together, we would probably agree on most things. But we have come to this moment by different paths. Let us set aside our disagreements and focus our minds and ideals on the urgent task at hand, to resolve our mutual problems as citizens of a shared but troubled planet. Truth will prevail when we seek it honestly. We can discover agreement in many areas even while we mutually respect our rights to disagree. Let us challenge the citizens of the Soviet Union and other nations to join with us in seeking the common ground upon which all nations can achieve an enduring and peaceful partnership. Open and verifiable cooperation between the major powers. I was just thinking, boy, I'd like to have an echo chamber for that. The age of reason. All right, here we go. Chapter 2, the Georgia Guidestones. It's probable that humanity possesses even now the knowledge needed to establish limited but effective world government. That knowledge must be propagated in the consciousness of all mankind. The hearts of our human family must be touched and warmed to welcome a global rule by reason. But just remember what he said here and how warm that sounds and where it's going by the end of this chapter. All right, you dig? The hearts of our human family must be touched and warmed to welcome a global rule by reason. The group consciousness of our race is blind and perverse and is easily distracted by trivia when it should be focused on fundamentals. And I'm thinking you're going to help me out right here, right? We are in a critical era. Human population pressures are creating political and economic crises throughout the world. Bull crap. These make more difficult the building of a rational world society. And our expanding numbers cause wholesale destruction of the habitat of thousands of other species throughout the globe. Now, I'm getting a little backsteer yet, but you see where he's going, right? It's like depopulation, and you people, the heart of humanity and all that crap. A first step will be to convince humanity that a rational world order is possible. Let us keep in view enduring appeals to our collective reason. Let us draw attention to basic problems. Let us establish proper priorities. We must order our home here on the planet before we reach for the stars. I'm going to hurl. Our reason is the most powerful agency on earth. We must make humanity aware that compassionate, enlightened reason can control our destiny within the limits inherent in our natures. It is difficult to seed wisdom in closed minds. Cultural inertias are not easily overcome. Unfolding world events and the sad record of our race dramatize the shortcomings of traditional agencies in governing human affairs. Yeah, get rid of the governments, man. Increasing crises may make mankind willing to accept a system of limited world law that will stress the responsibility of nations to regulate their internal affairs and assist them in the peaceful resolution of international frictions. With such a system, we can eliminate war and provide every person an opportunity to seek a life of purpose and fulfillment. There are no alternatives to Armageddon. That's right, baby, you ain't getting away from that. They are attainable, but they will not happen without coordinated efforts by millions of dedicated people in all nations. I am the originator of the Georgia Guidestones and the sole author of its inscriptions. I've had the assistance of a number of other American citizens in bringing the monument into being. We have no mysterious purpose or ulterior motives. You freaking liar. Stupid or liar? Stupid. No. Liar. Yes. We see common sense pathways to a peaceful world, without bias for particular creeds or philosophies. Yet our message is in some areas controversial. I have chosen to remain anonymous in order to avoid debate and contention or getting your ass shut up. I think so, bro. Our guides must stand on their own merits. Stonehenge and other vestiges of ancient thought arouse our curiosity but carry no message for human guidance. Wrong. The Guidestones have been erected to convey certain ideas across time to others. We hope that these silent stones and their inscriptions will merit a degree of approval and acceptance down the centuries, and by their silent persistence hasten in small ways the dawning of an age of reason. 2 interested citizens of Elbert County, Georgia, have been instrumental in bringing this project to completion. They are not sponsors, but have given invaluable assistance. They have served without compensation through motives of public service, even though they may not necessarily agree with the author in all his beliefs. Mr. Wyatt Martin, who has an interest in Georgia's history, served as the project's fiscal agent. He assisted in selecting a site for the monument that would provide public access while remaining within budgetary limits. He enlisted community support for a small public park as a site for the monument. How wonderful. Mr. Joe Fenley, presently the mayor of Elberton, quarried the massive stones. Did he do that himself? Engraved on them our message and erected them on the site about 8 miles north of Elberton. I'm not going to look right now. Please tell me this is probably in the 33rd degree parallel, right? I don't even know. I'll check later. The monument has been named the Georgia Guidestones. It consists of 4 large upright blocks of granite, each 2 meters wide and 5 meters high. They are arranged to mark the limiting positions of the rising and setting sun in summer and winter. Oh, the solstice? They surround a central stone which is oriented north to south. A channel through this stone is aligned with the celestial pole. On its south face is a sundial marking noontime throughout the year on a closed curved figure which reflects the equation of time. Correcting the variations between solar time and time is recorded with uniform human hours. The capstone is inscribed with an appeal to reason in 4 archaic languages. The monument is intended to combine certain attributes of the Rosetta Stone and many of the standing stones which are to be observed throughout Europe as remnants of past human societies. We believe each human being has a purpose and a significant place in the divine plan of the universe. Of course, a capital D for divine. The celestial alignments of the stone symbolize our need to be in harmony with eternal principles manifest in our natures and in the universe around us. The 2 large faces on each of the 4 central stones are inscribed with 10 precepts or guides. The 8 faces carrying the same text in a different language. The English version has fewer than 100 words. The languages were selected for their historical significance and because of their use by people now living. It would not have been possible for us to represent each of the 3,000 languages known to exist in the human family today. It is hoped that as time passes, other stones can be erected in outer circles to mark the migrations of the moon and possibly other celestial events. These stones would carry our thoughts in additional languages. Perhaps the stones will be copied in other lands by those who share our hope for a peaceful world based upon shared ethical values and a common respect for human reason. The Guidestones are not intended to have sectarian appeal. They are a reminder of the challenges that face present and future generations of humanity. They are intended to encourage efforts to meet those challenges rationally without favoring particular religions or political systems. We believe our thoughts are rational proposals for dealing with the problems that confront us. They are intended to stimulate discussion and logical, compassionate action. Humans are special creatures. We are shepherds for all earthly life. We are players in the eternal struggle between good and evil, the forces which build and those which destroy. We must strive to optimize our existence both for ourselves and for those who will follow. We must accept the guiding role which we can infer from our observations of the human situation in the complete mantle of life on earth and in the universe of struggle, conflict, and endless change. Perhaps these phenomena reflect eternal turmoils in the very soul of God. You want to tell him that, bro? Yeah, good luck with that. One day you will. We appear to be the major agency through which good and evil qualities of the Spirit become active in our world. Within us, there are elements of love, mercy, and compassion. There are also hate, cruelty, and cold indifference. We appear to be the only agents capable of consciously working to improve this imperfect world. It is not enough for us to simply drift with the current. The rational world of tomorrow lies ever upstream. This guy just doesn't run out of metaphors, does he? The most pressing world environmental problem is the need to control human numbers. Here we go. In recent centuries, technology and abundant fuels have multiplied humanity far beyond what is prudent or long sustainable. Says who? We can foresee the impending exhaustion of certain energy sources and the depletion of many vital raw materials. We are wantonly vandalizing the world of nature. Speak for yourself, you jerk. To control our reproduction is crucial. This will require major changes in our attitudes and customs. Unfortunately, the inertia of human habits can be extreme. This is especially true when those for whom custom is a dominant force are uninformed of the need for change. Nearly every nation is overpopulated. Asshole. In terms of a perpetual balance with nature. Here we go. We are like a fleet of overcrowded lifeboats confronted with an approaching tempest. In the United States, we are seriously overtaxing our resources to maintain our current population in the existing state of prosperity. We are destroying our farmland and have grown dangerously dependent upon external sources for oil, metal, and other non-renewable resources. Nations such as Japan, Holland, and Haiti are even more seriously overpopulated and therefore in greater jeopardy. God almighty. Reproduction is no longer exclusively a personal matter. Society must have a voice and some power of direction in regulating this vital function. The desires of human couples are very important, but they must not neglect the consideration of society at large. The general welfare of this and future generations must be given increasing consideration as we develop plans for rational guidance for our procreation. Great. Whites are like negative, right? Negative replacement births, okay? We're doing our bit, right? But, somebody want to talk to the Latinos, who are like leading the league and more kids per family? No person should be brought, is that racist? Well, that's freaking true, okay? No person should be brought into the world unwanted and unneeded. No child should be conceived through carelessness. If each life is to have value, every conception must be part of an ordered plan of two parents who are aware of their responsibilities to that child and to society. Who are you to talk like this, you creep? It is vitally important that each national government have a considered population policy. The need is urgent and should take precedence over other problems, even those relating to national defense. Population control is a global problem. The actions of one nation have far-reaching effects on others. Overcrowding human beings in conditions of squalor and ignorance is dehumanizing. It is an evil which must not be tolerated. Each nation must consider the present and future availability of all resources required for its long, continuing survival. With proper allowances for the interchange of commodities that are overabundant in some areas and scarce in others, rational estimates must be made of the optimum population which can be sustained by those resources on a perpetual time scale. Each nation must make this determination for its own people. It may give assistance to its neighbors as it chooses, as its assistance is requested. But in the final analysis, each nation must determine its own population goals and must formulate plans that will achieve them. No nation, having regulated its own population, should be expected to burden its citizens with the unwanted surplus of improvident neighbors. Nations with optimum populations can provide comfort and education for their own citizens and can give assistance to others. They can be good world citizens. Ital, world. Nations which are overcrowded and poverty-stricken are problems for the entire world community. And what are we going to do with them? There are still significant reserves of fossil fuels and mineral resources, sufficient perhaps for a century of adjustment, but time is running out. Immediate action is required to avert disaster. A few generations of single-child families will make possible dramatic improvements of living standards in even the most impoverished countries. In all nations, a major determinant of living conditions will be the ratio of available resources to the number of citizens who must share them. Irresponsible childbearing must be discouraged by legal and social pressures, and I'm wondering if you're going to tell me what they would be. Couples who cannot provide a decent home and support for a child should not produce children to be a burden for their neighbors. Bringing unneeded children into an overcrowded lifeboat is evil. It is unjust to those children. It is harmful for other occupants and for all living things. Society should not encourage or subsidize such behavior. Knowledge and techniques for regulating human reproduction are now in existence. Moral and political leaders throughout the world have a grave responsibility to make this knowledge and these techniques generally available. This could be done with a fraction of the funds now devoted to military purposes. In the long run, such action could do more than anything else to reduce the tensions which lead to war. One of the many means already available for controlling human fecundity, some are acceptable to most cultural groups, others are not. Better, safer, and more easily mass-applied techniques are urgently needed. And what might they be? Especially in underdeveloped nations which are experiencing major reductions in death rates through basic medical and sanitation practices. Much controversy now rages over the acceptability of abortion as a last resort for eliminating unwanted pregnancies. Heat engendered by these discussions may subside somewhat as we better understand the nature of life and discuss further the philosophical question of ensoulment, or the acquisition of human nature by a fertilized ovum. What the hell are you talking about, man? Like, what language is this? We must know that the human zygote perpetuates a flame which began on Earth more than 2 billion years ago, a flame which has been transmitted from generation to generation in a continuous unfolding of the potentials for variety which were present in the first living cells. We cannot point out the precise moment in that ongoing succession of living things when life was transformed from something definitively less than human into a new form representing a higher order of life, awareness, and intelligence. Much evidence suggests that we are still very close to the anthropoid apes, not only in our general body structure and physiology, but also in the very precise patterns of the genetic coding within our chromosomes. It has been estimated that the several billion letters of our genetic alphabet differ in fewer than 2% of their sequences from those of a gorilla. The development of a human being from the fertilized egg follows a sequence that parallels the evolution of all warm-blooded creatures from simple one-cell beginnings. In the early stages, we resemble lowly animal forms. Later on, our embryonic bodies, in parentheses, and those of other mammals at a similar period of development, in the parentheses, resemble fishes, with gill clefts in our neck regions and other striking similarities. Only in the latter stages of embryonic development can a human embryo be distinguished from the embryos of monkeys or apes. Religionists may hold differing opinions as to when in our development the multiplying cell clusters became human, possessing a spiritual soul, and the rights and considerations due a person. Some religious spokesmen contend that any product of human conception is human. How they regard the occasional monstrosities or this is a good one. Teratomatous tumors which may follow the imperfect fertilization or development of a human ovum is not clear. A little sarcasm there, isn't it, buddy? We do know that a fertilized human egg is totipotent, capable of developing into a complete individual or even into several identical individuals. But it has also been learned that all living cells in an individual human being, even skin or white blood cells, have within them identical potentials. Each is, in theory at least, capable of reproducing the individual from which they derive. Many plants and animals multiply asexually, reproducing themselves from body cells that are not a part of the reproductive organs. Fruit trees and many plants have been cloned in this manner for centuries, each generation duplicating the genetic nature of the original twig or bud from which the entire succession was derived. In recent years, similar cloning has been achieved with certain animals, including some vertebrates. In theory, a human being could be reproduced in like fashion. A human body sheds millions of cells from its internal and external surfaces every day. Each of those cells appears capable of reproducing the complete body from which it falls. Some dedicated and sincere opponents of abortion believe it is murder to destroy an early human embryo, even at the single cell stage of development. How these individuals will regard the implications of cloning human beings from skin cells is yet to be learned. In light of conventional wisdom and traditional morality, abortion must be considered an evil, but there can be even greater evils. Consider abortion in the case of a pregnancy resulting from rape or incest, especially in a young girl whose body may have been invaded in a manner most repugnant. Compare her situation with that of young men who are drafted into military service against their will and who are pitted against equally unwilling young opponents for legalized mass killing of one another, using the most advanced weapons modern technology can devise. Which killings are murder? Sometimes we must choose the least evil within an array of evils. Certain abortions may be lesser evils than available alternatives and thus be more morally defensible. Hopefully the development of absolutely effective methods for avoiding unwanted pregnancies will make these questions irrelevant. Our reproduction will become fully controllable through humane and rational means. Failure to utilize those means may ultimately be the greatest evil of all. In these delicate areas of moral judgment, humanity must rely on the collective conscience of our race. No single individual or group should impose its position on others until a consensus has been developed from the best informed and most compassionate spokesman from all groups. Here we go, with the oligarchy. Each bird in a migrating flock has its nervous system mechanisms for guiding its course to the north or to the south in a manner which depends upon faint perceptions of star patterns, magnetic fields, and solar motions. Yet those perceptions are so feeble that a single bird relying upon its own impulses might go astray. Nature has evolved patterns which group thousands of individuals into great flocks within which the tendencies of individuals are combined into a unified guiding force for the entire assembly. Perceptions of the larger group, although still susceptible to failure, are in most cases successful in bringing all the members safely to their goal. There may be safety in causing our larger moral issues to be resolved through informed deliberations by the best informed minds of the entire human family. Yeah, who chooses all this stuff, man? You know, it still goes back to the same... Alright, I'm preaching to the choir. A diverse and prosperous world population and perpetual balance with global resources will be the cornerstone of a rational world order. People of goodwill in all nations must work to establish that balance. We must have confidence in the informed judgment of humanity. The problems of population control can be solved before mass starvation or conflict destroys the earth. Human reason can meet the challenges thrust upon it in future ages. Let us and those who come after us apply that force in all areas of our lives. A world language need not eliminate national languages. Every spoken language is useful, for it helps to segregate its unique segment of humanity from the general mass, permitting it to develop its potentials in its own environment, influenced by its own traditions. Variety is intrinsically good and must be encouraged. Literature and all the arts flourish under the sheltering protection of a language which is developed in a common culture. But national languages may also be divisive and can permit islands of misunderstanding to develop and grow into sources of major difficulty. Where are we going with this? Esperanto? I'm thinking. No language in general use today has been consciously designed by human effort. Attempts to create a design language have been adaptations from existing patterns. They have not been based on fundamental analyses of our speech mechanisms and thought patterns. Widely spoken languages throughout the human species reflect our inner nature as it has evolved on the tree of life. They share many common features, but continue to change and to evolve as if they too are living creatures. We suggest that scholars throughout the world begin now to establish new bases upon which later generations can develop a totally new universal language for men and machines. It will be adapted to our speech mechanisms and to the language faculties and patterns impressed in our nervous systems. Its spoken and printed forms will be capable of accurate interchange by electromechanical means. Let me read that again. Its spoken and printed forms will be capable of accurate interchange by electromechanical means. Okay. Properly designed and stabilized, the common tongue for all nations may someday span chasms which would otherwise divide the human family. It will make possible the accurate transfer of thought down the long reaches of time. It need not be spoken by all. It will be most useful for those who bridge international barriers and for scholars in the remote future who interpret the past. It will help maintain unity in diversity. Now, unity in diversity. You got them all right in there, kid. When the central cluster of the Georgia Guidestones was completed, our small sponsoring group was disbanded, leaving the monument in the safekeeping of the people of Elbert County, Georgia. If the inscriptions are dimmed by wind and sun and time, we ask you to cut them deeper. If the stone should fall or be scattered by people of little understanding, we ask you to raise them up again. We invite all who share our goals to extend a monument with our stones to carry its thoughts in languages not already represented. Added stones oriented with celestial phenomena can continue the central theme of the Guidestones, the acceptance of universal eternal principles in directing the course of human affairs. The guides are not religious, they are not commandments, we have no authority to command. Affirmation of our thoughts can only occur as they are endorsed and supported by the reasoned judgment of this and future generations. We invite human beings of all persuasions to consider them with open minds, adapting them to the changing circumstances of unknown future centuries. We have no authority to command, but there'll be others who make judgments. You know, this is all gobbledygook, man. And this guy calls himself a what? What is he? I'm just a normal, like, everyday human being. Right. All right, here we go. Let these be Guidestones to an age of reason. And here we are, and guess how many there are? Oh, of course, there's only 10. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. 2. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. 3. Unite humanity with a living new language. 4. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. 5. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. 6. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. 7. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. 8. Balance personal rights with social duties. 9. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite, capital I. Number 10. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Okay. Well, that's it for the opening salvo of the Georgia Guidestones. Actually, Common Sense Renewed is the title, by Robert Christian, not his name. And I hope, well, you know, I shouldn't have said what I did, but you can understand the double-speak in this kind of crap. And we'll go on with it. And thanks to Brian for sending that to me. And that is the end of part 1 of Common Sense Renewed.